I was sitting there the other day, and I was thinking to myself,
Out of my way.
are you just tired of being nice? Don't you just want to go ape shit? And because of that, or rather, because of the vibes of that, I was thinking about how a lot of the things I work on in terms of creative writing and such, they're always they're always esoteric bullshit and the like, and I never really focus on just the presentness, the living in the moment of a lot of the settings that I work on. And so I kind of just sat there and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna try to work on something that's a little more funky, a little more violent, just for the sake of violence. But then I did that thing I do, and I thought about esoteric bullshit. So that eventually had me settle on the idea of a setting. Let's see, where did it begin? I believe it just began with me sitting there and thinking, well, it's gonna be sort of like 90s stuff. Very. I was raised on movies like Blade and other such things, The Spawn and stuff like that. Very 90s stuff, even as like a little toddler. At the age of 2, I was playing Doom on my old man's lap. He would set me there, and he would let me mess around with it. So I went to 2 and 4 as a toddler. Then again, I don't know if you knew what toddler years were. Either way, it was before the age of 5. And so, from a very young age, I was used to hyper violence, but I was never. I would say after about 2008, it was no longer. I would need things that would stimulate me intellectually. And so I would end up with things like. Let's see. What are some other good examples of settings I've worked on? I've worked on. A lot of it's has Gnostic influences. I keep having Detroit be sucked into another dimension. That's a running thing with me. It first started with GURPS. I ran some GURPS for my roommates, and Detroit got sucked into sort of like a dreamscape. It was hell, I can't even remember what the overall plot for that was in terms of the meta plot. Oh yeah, I think what I read about this tabletop game called Cult with a K. I think it's a European release, and it's about Gnostic kind of stuff about the demagogues. No, that's not quite right. It's some I can't remember what they call them because there's the big dude, the fake god dude, and then underneath the fake ar- archons, they might be called archons, and he's the demiurge, I believe. And so the city would manifest archons from people with latent, basically psionic energy and the like. Actually, now that I think about it, this was oh hell, this was like 3 years ago, and there's another tabletop game that came out recently. I think Kane or something like that, and that is another tabletop game in which physical or at least supernatural manifestations of people suffering and the like comes about, and then players are. It's kind of like SCP in a way. They're sent out to go deal with them. High mortality rate. I believe the influences for that game were the Chainsaw Man anime or whatever it's called. I haven't actually watched it yet. I plan on eventually, and other such things. Mine came from yeah, just mostly Silent Hill for that tabletop game I was running, and so yeah, I just keep having Detroit slurped into another dimension, and people having to deal with daddy issues, which at the center of it, a lot of things are basically just daddy issues. I mean, look at Abe Lincoln. He got killed because of daddy issues. John Wilkes Booth shot him because his dad preferred his brother, who was possibly the better actor. I'd never personally gone to a John Wilkes Booth play. I think they stopped doing those in the 1860s, so I'm a bit out of touch with what was popular back then. So I can't really judge him. But either way, his brother, the more popular of the two, was like, "Oh, my brother assassinated the president of the United States. I'd better stop, acting and stuff." And so he retired, and then he went back to acting. I think within like 2 years or something like that. So big fun. It was to the point where his dad would be like, "Oh, hey, John Wilkes Booth, you're in this family photo. Can you, like, step aside so your brother has better visuals?" It was, like, that bad when they were kids. Yeah, this all stems from daddy issues and the like. So, going from what I've worked on in the past, which is very, like, esoteric bullshit, which I'm known for, I was just like, man, I just kind of want to make something where I don't have to think a whole lot. But I ended up thinking a whole lot. And what I settled on was, okay, why are they allowed to just, like, kill people? It was going to be a setting in which killing people was legal. Certain people. I always know that the government's going to be involved in some way. The government's going to be what gives them the ability to do it. Because otherwise, like, I can't just have a setting that's super violent. I have to have some justification for it. And so that's where all my troubles began was, well, why would the government just let people kill each other? And then I was sitting there and I was like, oh, what if reincarnation got proved to be true? The government would totally make it so that criminals just got killed and justify it by saying, oh, well, they'll just have a better life next time, or they'll try harder, ignoring all the material conditions and such that gives rise to crime, at least on the lower levels of, poor people committing crimes against each other. Or against rich people, which I don't give as much of a shit about. A vast majority of crimes actually are white-collar in nature. Rich people not paying you as much as they should be, as in they don't pay overtime and the like. Or just straight up committing other methods of fraud against workers, essentially. I think it's about 2/3 of all crimes in America. All the money stolen, basically, consists of employers screwing over their workers. And so, that's a little fun fact for you. So, reincarnation. Okay, so, people get licenses to kill criminals. And I was sitting there and I was like, okay, how does this play out? And I was like, oh, they'll just be like, you just go through like basic firearms training. So whatever the gun safety is, I think it's probably below like 250. I have it set so that it's like you pay 250, you get your firearms training license and all that, and you're good to go. You aren't allowed to commit crimes while you're taking out bounties, but seeing as how the average bounty is about $25,000 in the setting, it's very much like, you kill one dude, you're set for a year. I mean, you might be listening to this and think to yourself, well, how can you survive off of $25,000 a year? I live in an area so rural and so fucking poor that $25,000 a year is more than most people I know make. Like, that's decent money. Like, easily. Around here, you just don't get paid much. Like, I can do the math right here real quick and see how much the average person around here makes. Let's see. And times 4, times 12. What? That's even less than I thought. Let's see, 1,600 times 12. Yeah, 19,200. That's... If you're getting paid $10 an hour, and you work full time, and you're not getting fucked over, like you're not doing overtime because you don't want to get fucked over. That is only about $19,000 a year, which I can't remember what Michigan's minimum wage law is currently, but we're looking at something around that. Let's see, Michigan minimum wage 2025. What is that currently? Oh, I keep forgetting. It keeps getting raised. So yeah, it's $12.48 an hour. Wait. Ooh, yeah. The Supreme Court tried telling them not to raise it to $12.48, I guess. But January 1st, it was going up to $10.56, and then February 21st, up to $12.48. That's not bad. It's actually pretty good. So, let's see, 19,000 times 1.2, 22,800. Yeah, so yeah, still lower if you're full-time minimum wage. Which, 12 actually is not awful. I mean, I was getting paid about 14 an hour, which isn't deplorable, but It was just, something for me to do to get enough cash to get enough equipment to do stuff like this, and also to pay my bills. So yeah, back to the setting. I'm already like 10 minutes into this. I gotta edit out a couple of segments where I stop talking in order to take a drink and such, but yeah, let's see. Alright, reincarnation setting, that's done. The origination, okay, I did that. Reincarnate, yep. Influences, okay, so if you were born in like the mid-90s, early 90s, whatever, and you grew up watching TV and such, you probably watched Invader Zim. And while that wasn't the vibes, the energy of it, not quite the vibes, but the energy of it, that uh, just unbridled childlike energy and just the dark humor really got to me. And I'm actually wearing a Gur shirt right now. My little cousin got it for me for my birthday, and I gotta get her a plushie soon. I gotta go and get a plushie for her. Not as comically large as the last one I got her, which was the size of a small child. This one might be the size of a small baby instead. The Invader Zim, that it wasn't just the energy of the show, it's the art style that also came to mind when I thought of just this hyper-violent setting. And I'm just gonna say it now, the main plot I was thinking of it being like a book or something, is that of a dishwasher or something, because if it's you write what you know. I mostly know dishwashing. Because I could have been a line cook, because when we ran out of heroin-addicted saute cooks, I would step in to work that at the one restaurant I worked at, and I was actually able to, this is a really fun story, I was actually able to recreate an older recipe that they had tossed out, because nobody actually knew how to read recipes there, or how to cook them, and it was seafood tortellini, and for the longest time, people were just cooking it up where they wouldn't cook up the white wine, so it ended up really soupy. Just a really soup. You would just straight up be drinking white wine, uncooked off. Just a soupy seafood tortellini. I believe it was some kind of a shellfish. What was it? Clams? Something. Might have been a clam. A mussel. I think it was mussels. It was mussels, the tortellini. They would use the tomato stuff for the bruschetta, and they would just dump that in. And it was, the white wine. I want to say it was Alfredo in there. I don't think that one had any pesto, but it might have had pesto. I can't quite remember. We had pesto as well. And yeah, it's not a super hard recipe. You gotta make sure the mussels are cooked through, but then the noodles can't be overdone. But I made it well enough that the waitress was given a $20 tip for it. And it felt really good to hear that it was that good. And also she split the tip with me, so I got $10 for stepping in to make that one dish, because we didn't have any more heroin addicts to cook up our saute station stuff. I don't quite remember why I started talking of... Oh yeah, a dishwasher. Yeah, so the main character will be a dishwasher, and having been in a couple of kitchens, they're full of a lot of pieces of shit. And so I was like, well, yeah, like, what if, like, just a dishwasher is like, man, this guy's an asshole. He keeps storing pills on the bar and keeps just, like, getting into fights with people. Nobody wants to fuck with him because he's covered in tattoos and shit. So I was like, what if a dishwasher just goes out and gets a license to kill and kills him? And so that's where that really came from, well, what sort of a normal person would I want to write about? Okay, I write about what I've done professionally for the longest time. And yeah, that's where that came from. The other influences beyond Blade, Invader Zim, Spawn, the Underworld series would probably be like 90s shooters, like Duke Nukem and the like, where it's just this very, very casual violence, not a whole lot of thought behind it. Doom, like I said earlier. Comics, like that Transmetropolitan, as the art style of things like Invader Zim, Transmetropolitan. There was that one anime that looked like a comic, I can't remember the name of, it was fucking wacky. the cyberpunk in general. It's the setting would be a cyberpunk one, alternative history, because I just love alternative histories where you get to see giant robots and stuff, like mechs, and so there would be mechs. Immersive Sims inspired it, which is another thing as to why there are giant robots, because I was like, well, I've been watching some stuff about Cycle Patrol R, and that's just phenomenal, fun stuff for me. And I guess that's it, really. This is just an episode of me talking about some fun stuff, and I'll see you next time.